Your name is it. Howdy, folks. This is the GhostÉire Channel. I don't know, I've got technical difficulties with the opening video there. But tonight on the GhostÉire Channel, we are live and we're going to be talking to Anne Massey of Irish Paranormal Investigations. How are you doing, sis?
Keeping well. How are you doing there?
Oh, good. Anna's currently watching the Crystal Palace and Brighton game, so it'd be like Sky Soccer Saturday. We won't see. I might not give away the result there, but I won't say much there. But Anna's going to be talking about Celtic Harbingers of Death, not hamburgers.
Hamburgers of death.
Also, the Abbey of the Black Hag, also in County Limerick. And finally, we're going to talk about Father Malachi Martin, the exorcist there. If you like to ask any questions, feel free to put them forward. If you're associated with any paranormal team or tourist attraction, just put the name of the organization in brackets and we'll give a shout out to you. So tonight, folks, we also have results of a poll, which is to do with Celtic Harbingers of Death. And we'll be revealing results later on, and there'll be competition as well. There's only a couple more chances to go into the competition where you have a chance to enter a Halloween mega draw and mini draw. So there's a few shout outs already there. Paula Crockett says, hi, Jenny. I think that's somebody else there who's watching there. One Jenny's watching there. Paula Boyne says, hi, all the team. Hi, Paul. How you doing? Joanne Breen from Seekers of the Afterlife says hi to all this evening. How you doing?
Hi, Joanne. Hi, Paul.
Mary Nolan from Back in Time says hi, guys. And
hi,
Susan Goodison from Back in Time says hi, Anthony. Hi, Anne. How you doing, Susan?
Hi, Suzanne. And Bridget. Hi, Bridget. I just see her come up there.
And Bridget. There we go. And then we have Bridget from Seekers of the Afterlife. Patricia TV.
Patricia will be saying hello all night. Yeah.
Says hello. And yeah, if you like to contact the page, go to our website, www.ghostére.net, go to the contact page, fill in the blanks. If you have a private message, just put in brackets private message. So we're going to start off tonight by talking about Celtic Harbingers of Death. Can you tell us, Anne, why do we expect to see these otherworldly creatures before death? Why is it in our culture? Why do we see it? Or does it happen in other cultures as well?
It does happen in other cultures. It's basically ingrained into us, almost evolutionary wise. You know, so we've gone through generation from the earliest pagan times, even to today. You know, your parents, your grandparents are going to be saying, "Oh, you know, did you hear the Banshee?" Or do you know the stories that if a bird's knocking on the window, if a bird flies in the house, that there's a death coming? So it's ingrained in our culture and our heritage, and it's one of the most, of all the things I've researched, it's one of the most systematically solid superstitions, for want of a better word, that has carried down from generation to generation. And it's something that I think everyone is aware of. Everyone kind of knows that certain birds, particularly the raven, has a dark connotation Magpies, of course, everyone knows. You know, you want to see a certain number of magpies, or you salute if you see one on its own. So it's something that people do and are aware of almost as a matter of fact and course, without giving it any thought.
And is it a foregone conclusion that some death is going to happen if we witness these kind of otherworldly creatures?
I think they're not otherworldly creatures, are they? They're just the birds flying around. But it's it would put the fear of God in you. So hi, Tools, my fellow Spooky Owls writers come up there, it's I've seen. We were talking earlier, weren't we? We said the word coincidence. I've seen with certain families, particularly friends of mine in Cork, where over generations from their great grandmother, down and aunts and stuff, where a bird has flown into the room and death been almost imminent, you know, within a matter of a day or two. And the other one is, of course, birds tapping on the window, and if one comes down the chimney, that's a particular omen of doom. So I've seen a lot of coincidences. That there's a saying, isn't it, that the universe is too lazy for coincidence. And you know, and I think we say the word coincidence for lack of perhaps more evidence, or because we don't want to think that actually it might be true, and you don't want to be the one where the bird comes tapping on the window. It's certainly one of the most fascinating aspects of folklore, because it is so ingrained. It's has precedent, and you know, people believe it.
And like because we mentioned we're going to talk about probably the foxes. Well, we're probably going to talk about the foxes now, and we know them, we see them. Like the focus of Gormanston, is that correct? How am I saying it?
Yeah, Gormanston, that's correct. Yeah. That's Gormanston Castle. It's a barony. So it's an area. It's just kind of Meath Louth kind of way, and this the viscounts going down through the ages. Whenever the head of the house sometimes probably didn't even know he was ill. What would happen is foxes would start arriving under the master bedroom window,
right,
in twos and threes, and would just sit there howling and crying. And the servants would try and shoo them away, get rid of them, get them off the land, and the master of the house would die, and then the foxes would just disappear into the night. They would just be gone. And then obviously the next time it happened, they're like, okay, hang on now, you know, like we need to be a bit careful here. And it carried right on until the 50s, when the last Viscount passed away with the presence of the foxes, and then the foxes disappeared, and a holy order bought the castle to use as a school, and it never happened at that location again. And you wonder now, because you hear of crisis apparitions where they appear, they can be spectre spirits, whatever. There's some connected down to Glyn Castle and some more in Limerick, on where there were castles and they're kind of gone now, where a vision would appear to foretell of a death. So that would be another omen. And they are connected, a lot of these, and the Banshees, to the well-to-do families. So you wonder how many more are out there, and they've just not said because they don't want the world to know.
True. Is it like, as I suppose, as you mentioned, the crows before, the magpies pecking at the window, and the foxes, its behavior. So it's kind of these animals, we see them day to day there. And I'm going to reveal the poll shortly there, which is very interesting there, and it's completely different from how I suppose some of us would investigate it there as well. I don't know. Brighton scored.
No, I didn't. No, you're good. You're good. Carry on.
Joking.
My face would look very different if Brighton scored, I can assure you.
So we have the Banshee wailing and keening, some of them more, and then do we hear the Banshee more than we would see them in the counts that you would have heard about?
You'd rather be hearing it than seeing it, because if you see it, no, you're screwed. There's actually a really funny folklore tale going back to Dingle. Unusually, it was actually the family called Hussey, which, as you know yourself, the Banshee is associated with the O's, the Macs, and the Mooks. Traditionally, because they were the wealthy families, they had the money, they had the castles. And anyway, this particular family in Hussey apparently bang on the door or whatever, Banshee there wailing, and it was the wrong house.
Oh.
And they sent them off to the Hussies up the street, and that was their problem. I find
no postal code there, was it? There was no
code, bit of a faux pas on behalf of the Banshee there, but yeah, I'd take that with the pint of Guinness that was told over. But I think it's a great story, like the wrong house. Like, we could all try that one. Yeah, that's not my name. Yeah,
that's not my name. Just got to a few shout outs there as well. There, so as well, Petula, is it Petula Mitchell says hello, Anne.
Yeah, that's Tools. Hi, Tools. She'll be rooting for Brighton, so get rid of her.
All right, get rid of Petula. Colin Barrett says, evening everyone. Hi Colin, hope you're doing well there. Hope you're all keeping good there on this rainy, sunny day. Mary Nolan says, from back in time, says, I heard a Banshee many years ago, and within minutes had gotten word a cousin had passed away. So I do believe it.
Yep.
And going back to the Banshee as well, and probably foxes and animals there, like, is it misinterpretation? That's what I was going to ask you then. Do you reckon it's misinterpretation with the sound, like the wildlife, these like crying noises?
Do you know, that's actually a really good observation. It's possible. It is very possible. But there's just something blood curdling. I've heard the Banshee twice locally in relation. My family, my mum's O'Connor.
Okay, yeah.
And thankfully at a distance. And it was another row within the street, because people do say they hear it outside of the family in rural areas. And the kind of sound, I've yet to hear even the most noisy fox give off that particular sound. But in many instances, it's quite possible that what they are hearing could be a screaming, crying fox or bird, like a raven or a crow or something. That makes sense.
Yeah. Kathy says hello. Hi, Kathy. How you doing? Teresa Carol says hey. Hi. Hey, Ghosty. Fred Richard says very scary. I don't know, it's to do with my hair.
Fred's a legend. He's listening in from the States.
Hi, Fred. I hope it must be early daytime now, would it? Yeah, I suppose. I don't depend where you are in the States there. Angie Stanfield says hi, Anthony and Anne. Hi, Angie. I'll talk to you soon there.
Hi, Ange.
Joanne Breen from Seekers of the Afterlife says, I normally connect fierce creatures with red eyes as a harbinger of death, but moths are supposed to be signs too. Not exactly stuff of nightmares. All right, moths.
Well, when they fly into my house, it's a sign of death for them.
Oh, right. Okay. I suppose with all the spiders' webs.
Yeah.
Halloween all the time.
My year-round Halloween decoration, yeah.
Mary from GhostÉire. Hi, Mary. Hi, sis. See you soon. She just says hello. Okay. See you soon, sis. Colin says, I came across a story recently about a guy who rescued a herd of elephants a few years ago. When he died, the herd made its way over a considerable distance to gather outside the house. And we're just talking about this beforehand.
I've heard that.
About animals, like, as well. So animals will know of the passing or the apparent near passing away there. And
I've heard it happen with groups of gorillas as well, with the carers and stuff. So yeah, that's spot on, Colin. Thanks.
Cara says from Third Eye Adventure says, hi, better late than never. I think that's to do. I don't think that's about death. I think she just logged in.
I was going to say, yeah.
Well, you're just waiting for me there. I know I've got the words death written behind me.
If that was the case, it would be better never than late. Really,
Better never than late. Yeah. Also, Colin says my grandmother saw a banshee when she was 6 years old. It was on the night of her father's funeral, and her uncle died the next day. Yes, so it does go through ancestry as well, through the generations as well. Carol Daly says, hi all. Serenity says, hi guys, be talking to you soon. Serenity there. And Kara's laughing out. And Fred says, we're only afraid because we are being taught the fear. Death is just a part of our lives. True. It can be
very true.
It can go on to another pathway there. Gillian from True Seekers. Hi, Gillian. Says,
hi,
hey,
Gillian.
Hi, Anna Nancy was in Lep on Saturday night. Had a great active night.
Brilliant.
Castle, it's a brilliant place there. Like, so yeah. As another question there, I was going to ask you there, and there. So about like, do people see them nowadays? There are any counts of these creatures? Are they slipping away from society now? Is it because I'm just wondering there because like people tend to be passing away in hospitals, and people passing away more or less close to their loved ones. As you said, it was more or less a rural thing years ago. Is it still happening today? Are we lost conscious of what's happening on the outside when we're so intense in the inside? As in, say, like where people are passing away now, in hospitals, or what do you reckon?
I think again that's a really astute observation, and what I think is that the signs are probably still there. Everyone's just too busy to see them. They're too immediate. They're too wrapped up in what's around them. I mean, we can see over time how attention span has just gone, and people are too busy looking inwards. And saying that the attention span has gone.
I'm messing it up.
Bad man.
Go on, so carry on.
That was funny. We'll go back to the Harbingers, will we?
Well, as you said, I suppose, the attention span is gone, and I know you're getting me out. All right, we'll move on from that. There, we'll be joking. We're all joking.
We'll be here all night. Everyone will be gone. Their attention span will have gone. No, I, and hospitals. Would you even be aware if there was a bird outside the window? You probably wouldn't. So, but then that begs the question: is it tied to a particular location, a house that's connected to a family, as opposed to the family member? But then I've heard and researched, certainly going back as far as the 50s, I haven't been able to carry it any further forward, of where a sign a portent would happen here and the death would be in America.
Yeah.
So, and I've actually even uncovered a few, very few, but a few instances of American Irish families of the OMAC where they have actually had Banshee experience there and lost loved ones. So there was, I think it was Maryland, other parts of Virginia, and more up the East Coast. I didn't get anything for the West, but that's kind of as far as I got with that. So it does seem to follow families, but is it tied to the residents? If anyone can say of any experience they've had where maybe somebody has passed away in hospital and they've been warned at home, or they've actually been visiting somebody in hospital and seen or heard something, we'd love to hear about it. Yeah,
it's interesting. I suppose something like a survey would be interesting to do in the future there in connection to that there. Like just somebody might take this on now, hopefully there, but I'd be interested to see if there's anybody experiences, if they've had the accounts then, see how up and down the country or far and wide there. Jillian says, thank you. I think you meant Spook Troop Tours. I'm sorry there, Jillian. So that's Spook Troop Tours there. I'm sorry about that, Jillian, if I gave the wrong name there. David Sullivan says, very spooky. Don't know. What's that about?
Does he mean you?
It's probably me there. Colin says, I hate hospitals, even new ones. Being sensitive to energy, hospitals are not pleasant places.
Yeah, yeah. And that's there's just something there. And the more I've spoken to a lot of nurses who say there's just something different comes over, and they are very aware and see things that they would never necessarily go public with, but they've seen things. They know that people have people come to take them, if you like, into the light rather than kind of dying alone. There's something that goes on in hospitals, and as an empath myself, I don't like them.
Yeah,
because it really drains, not just because of what they are, but the emotional side of it is very draining. So I hear what he's saying, definitely.
Yeah, it is. And if I know yourself in hospitals when you've been in there, and I know it's a place for, you could be physically unfit, unwell, and then mentally you could be fit. You're fine there, but you want to get out of there, and just the constant desire wanting to get out, and you've been told you can't, and you feel that as well there, that kind of emotion there. And she says Leb is great, a great spot. That's true. Leb,
done it a few times. It's cool.
Oh, it's an amazing place, and Sean is amazing. Like,
he's gas. Yeah.
If I had a castle, I won't let any of you in. Nobody gets to my castle. I'll never get a castle.
We'll just bombard you with ravens until you let us in. Yeah.
I've only got one brick anyway in my castle. My son will knock it down.
It's one more than I have. Yeah.
Mary says, I think it's important to keep the folklore stories and traditions alive. Put the phones down, gather around, light a candle, and tell the stories. We did it as a family for years, and my kids love hearing the stories now. And as I suppose, as I said, I remember interviewing last year there, and was talking about the ghost stories, how it's passed down generations there as well. And it's not just it's knowledge as well and advice. It doesn't have to be the paranormal there. Adrian Hanley says, what height are banshees? My nan used to say they are unnaturally tall, and that's how you knew it was a banshee. Okay.
Well, everyone's tall to me, so. I wonder if that's because of the hovering aspect. Do the fact that they don't exactly walk on the ground per se. Could that be accounting for it?
Yeah, as you said, like, I suppose it could be hot, as in you don't hear the footfalls, you don't hear the footsteps. You more associate with them with the keening and screaming and wailing.
And of course, anything we're scared of, we see it as big.
True.
So there's that. Yeah.
I heard.
I was going to mention the 3 knocks.
3 knocks. So it's back to silent. And I heard if you hear 3 knocks on the door and nobody is there, it's a sign of a death in the family. That's from Carol.
Carol, yeah, it's or Cahill.
Carl,
I think,
sorry,
yeah.
Carl. I'm always I'm sorry, Carl, if I get it wrong.
And yes, that's a huge one. The 3 knocks. It can be the door, it can be the window, and I know of families that has happened to more than one occasion. I would be terrified. I just hope I don't even want to think about 3 knocks on the door.
Yeah, there's McCarthy's, and they own McCarthy's Bar and Fettered, Tipperary. That happens to their family each time the last generation goes there. I think it's the last generation to get 3 knocks on the door.
Yeah,
McCarthy's and Fettered.
That's the pub, isn't it? In Fettered, yeah.
Yeah, that's one place there. Gillian says it's great, Angie. It's a good friend of mine. So
Gillian's having her own conversation.
I know, yeah. I always go through all the conversations. It will be so the paranormal events on the 23rd, 24th, and 30th of October coming up there. So that's at Leb Castle. Cheers, Gillian. I know Gillian's probably telling somebody else.
Gillian's great. So anyone that hasn't been, have a look at what Gillian's doing there, because if you want your chance to go to Leb, this would be the time.
Yeah, it's got to be fab around this time of year. Angie says, absolutely. Sean, a great man, been there a few times over the years. And Sean says some spot for ghosts is Lep. And Mary says, what's the myth with the Banshee's cone?
Well, the idea is she uses it like a lure, that she will drop it, and if you see something silver lying on the floor, you're going to pick it up, and that's essentially tainting you and marking you for the Banshee, because there is an aspect of the Banshee that not all her calling is necessarily as important as an omen. Sometimes it can be pure vindictive if you've spited her in some way without realizing it, and that's where the comb would come in. Right. Also, she's been described as trying to be seen just sat combing through her hair. There was an awful in North Strand, up by the Three Arena in Dublin, during the Second World War. A doctor got called out. I forget his name now, but if you look it up, it's all factual. A doctor got called out, and because the planes were going over and everything, he got his wife and kids to go to his mother-in-law while he went to tend to this sick person. And on his return home, he arrived back at his own house, and saw the haggard old woman combing her hair, apparently on the doorstep. Saw the plane go over, and bomb came down. North Strand was bombed, and that was his mother-in-law, his wife, and his kids gone.
Oh, man. I know. It's a terrible thing. I know people tend to forget about the Second World. There's a number of places bombed in Ireland as well. Belfast, Wexford. I think it was about 10 counties bombs went over there.
Affected, yeah. And sometimes they were just missing. They thought they were over English soil, and they weren't. It's just bad luck.
So Serenity says, is the Phoenix supposed to be mocking the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit?
That is one definition of it, yeah. If it was evil. The couple of families, I wouldn't say that it happening was necessarily, they were good people, I don't think there was anything untoward there, but I have heard in certain locations, particularly Three Knocks, is a direct, if you like, two fingers up at the Holy Trinity and God. So yeah, definitely.
I suppose there's a consistency with that as well. I suppose that when it's happened, when a family member dies, there's a pattern as well there. I suppose when it's erratic, then when it's talking about maybe
then you'd worry.
Yeah, then you're worried. Gillian says, in my family there are different signs of death, ranging from knocks on the window, doorbell ringing, no one there, and my mother heard and saw the Banshee a good few times. Supposed to be attached to names begin with the Mac and Need. So yeah, I suppose the different families have different kind of encounters as well. As you said, it's mostly with the Mac and the Need.
There was actually going back in where are we going back to now? I think it was start of the 20th century. But there's even a family in, I don't know how since then, that was the last documented one, family in Ballylanders. They actually have these mysterious lights that appear. They do hear a Banshee, but they have these lights that appear as well in the sky when there's a death imminent. So that's an unusual one as well. Yeah.
Siobhan says hi. And Colin Barrett says, when my grandmother saw the Banshee, she said she was combing her hair while wailing. It was in a lane in Waterford, right alongside the church. Oh, okay.
Wow. There's churches and graveyards seem to be when the Banshee appears as an old woman. It does seem to be a lot of the time she would be seen close to a church or a graveyard. Certainly, a lot of the accounts I've been tracking over the last couple of centuries, when it's been other than that one in North Strand, actually, it seems to be connected to never in a church, on the outside of a church or a graveyard. but not inside, always on the boundary.
Always on the outside. Okay. It's interesting. And Carol says, I've seen a few banshees in my time. Okay. And Colin says that church has a graveyard. Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
So we did the poll there, and I'm just going to ask you for your thoughts on this there. So we did the poll here. The results is... so we asked, there's 7 people answered, which is good. But it was a lengthy kind of process there with the survey.
Yeah.
But they said the Hellhound was top rated at 2.1 out of 5. The Doulahan,
scariest. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever they feel was the most their preferred order there.
Banshee could have been told you're going to die. Yeah.
Yeah. What way do you want? What's the best way? So choose for this. Yeah. So as well, Banshee 2.4, Morrigan 3.1, and the Foxes was 5.0. Now, as I was saying there before, the most I would probably vote for the Foxes because he's seen it. I witnessed them more myself there, and it's the behaviour which is unusual. That would have been interesting to investigate there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you can track it easier. You can track the Foxes easier as well. There's more evidentiary support for the Foxes.
Witnesses. Yeah.
It's that makes sense to me.
And Hellhounds. What were you mentioned something about Hellhounds before?
Yeah, Hellhounds are more they seem to be guardians of treasure. So when there's a death imminent or somebody has been slain, these shucks, black dogs, Hellhounds will appear and are said to be guarding whatever's been left behind, especially if the individual's been murdered. They seem to be attached to a particular lineage to protect treasure. That been in Tipperary. There's one I was saying to you earlier. St. Coleman's Cathedral in Cove actually has one that patrols the base of the cathedral, and it's interesting because there are crypts under there, and you'd wonder is there treasure in there as well.
Oh, okay. So look into that more there.
Great trip to Cove, yeah.
Trip to Cove.
Bring your shovel, yeah.
Adrian wants to know how tall they are as well. The banshees there. Sean says there's a banshee around my place where babies were buried by there in West Cork. Of in the moors at night, Mary of the Wind, Mary Ann Galtip. So that's in West Cork. Colin says just looked up the Church of Most Holy Trinity, Ballybriggan.
Yeah. Cool.
And Bridget says my father told me that the banshee was a beautiful woman with a long black hair. Many heard her and seen her combing her hair. Different stories about her.
Well, the thing with the banshee is that she is able, like the Morrigan, is able to appear as she wants. So yeah, she could be seen as a beautiful woman. She can appear as a raven. She can appear as an old hag. So it's you've got to remember that the banshee is descendant of the likes of the goddess Cleaner and Avil, going back to the demigod times, both from Munster. I don't know what that says about us in Munster, but that's where they come from anyway. And so that they're of the She, they're of the fairies, and so they are they have a history going back that far. And part of that is that they can shapeshift.
So we'll just go through a few more questions because we've got to touch on the Abbey of the Black Hag, which has got very interesting there just before full time in the match there.
It's still 1-0.
Is there ever a male banshee, or is that just called a ghost? Or a male harbinger, I suppose, is the Doulahan one?
The Doulahan, yeah, he's basically Ireland's own headless horseman. He's actually of Chrome Dove, was a sacrificial god. and Christianity took hold of Ireland, and he was losing his power over the people. So it's said that he stepped back into the darkness and created the Dullahan to go forth in his likeness. The Dullahan would again be out looking for people that are about to drop. He's your horse, your coach and horses that you hear. That's what he would ride. And he uses his head as a beacon to look across the fields and see where he's going to go. And he's allowed to speak only once, and that's to say the name of the person that he's going for. If you get in his way, he has I suppose a receptacle of blood, and he'll throw it on you, and you're marked permanently, and he will come for you at some point. So the Dullahan would be the male version of the Banshee, if you like.
Yeah, I love the film Sleepy Hollow.
That's deadly. Deadly,
I love it there. So we have the quiz there, folks. So talking about Harbingers of Death, I'm getting it right, not hamburgers.
Hamburgers.
We need to, you got to be the first person to type this word and you go into our competition. So the word that I'm looking for is, get ready, just the word, Morrigan. So Morrigan. Be the first person to put that in. You're fine, and because you're automatically get a chance to have a go at this there. So it's just anybody can type the word Morrigan, be the first to do it, and you're in there with a chance of going into the competition. Joanne's got in there again. Joanne is quick. Jesus.
Yeah.
God, she's so quick, Joanne. Okay, so Joanne, so stay with us there, Joanne. We'll go into stay watching the show, and you have a chance to go on the draw again. So, folks, I'll just go back now because I have to go back and take that off there. So, we're going to be talking about the Abbey of the Black Hag, and can you tell us there and more? What's the information on the site, the history?
Right. Well, St. Catherine's Abbey is it's in rural Limerick. The other side is kind of between Askeaton and Shanagolden. It's dates back. Its official Vatican records have it at the 13th century, so it's like well old. But they reckon it actually goes back further than that. It's actually named after Catherine O'Connell, who was, if you like, the benefactor that put the money forward for the creation, and it just ran as a convent. Now it's been absorbed into a working farm. For a family living there, it's a working farm, so you shouldn't be going just wandering in. You do need to contact them for permission, which we got. And they're lovely family actually that are very into the history of it. They've enjoyed having the archaeologists around and everything else, and it's one of those places you would drive past it a million times, you wouldn't know it was there, but when you get in, it's amazing how much of the structure is still there, and it's huge. It's huge.
I'm going to show a bit of footage soon. I've got the two clips that you were there recently there, but it's to do. It's the Desmonds, the FitzGeralds. How powerful were they?
Well, there was basically the FitzGeralds, it was the FitzGeralds. So the Knights of Desmond and the Ormonds. So it's the Desmonds and the Ormonds, and in 15th century Ireland, they were in such a feud. Even the bishop saying mass in Dublin would say that, ask the people to pray because these two families were going to tear Ireland apart. And one of the hauntings at the Abbey ruins is the Countess FitzGerald of the Desmonds, who they were under attack, so the Earl was just basically trying to get the wife to safety, and she got hit by an arrow in the thigh. It was obviously a fatal blow. It hit the artery, but she was waning.
Yeah.
And they came upon St. Catherine's, and he basically took her in for sanctuary, and he believed she was dead. And so he took her in, pulled at the ground or whatever, buried her beneath the altar before going off to safety himself. But it said that the nuns there could hear these blood-curdling screams night after night, and they knew she had been interred. So they decided maybe she wasn't happy in her resting place. They were going to dig her up and give her a proper burial. And when they did, her fingers were broken, her nails were broken off, there were scratch marks. She'd actually been buried alive. So it's said now that her screams can just be heard across the Limerick countryside of a night time.
I suppose that as we talk about hospitals before, it's that energy that's probably left behind there. Is the altar where it happened, is that spot still there, or is it?
Well, the whole the layout, the location itself, the ruins are still there. Obviously, there's no roof anywhere. It's the walls and the layout, so you can see the cells that the nuns used to sleep in, the refectory, the cloisters are there, those kind of things. You can see the layout, so you'd know where it was. And funny enough, that's actually where I had one of my creepiest jump moments. I'm still doubting myself to this point. Dominic was off looking at one side. I was going around the outside of that particular location, and it was still light enough on the outskirts. It's a strange place because it doesn't matter whether it's bright out, whether you've got torches, light just doesn't penetrate this place. It's quite odd. Now there are trees and stuff, but just light, nothing kind of penetrates. And but there was enough light for me to be able to see. And as I looked in, there was like a hole in the wall where the bricks come away and everything. And I swear to God, I saw like a hand, but it was translucent, and it was like my colour hand. And it kind of just synced, and it was like a split second, but it came out as if it was holding its hand out for communion, and then back and gone. And I was, and normally, you know, whether it's pareidolia or whatever else you're seeing, I wouldn't have a physical reaction to it. I'd be like, oh, okay. But this, I had the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I was physically shaking, and I was cold, and I was like, okay. Because there was no one else there to witness it, and I hadn't got it on camera or anything because it was just the initial walk round. But I was like, okay, this is going to be an interesting night.
And I'm going to show a bit of the footage, as you mentioned, because although it's middle of the day there, it's so dark looking there.
Well, it wasn't actually even middle of the day. It was late enough into the evening. It was just because it was summer, and it's obviously brighter because we're on the Atlantic side of Ireland. So. And it was sunny, which doesn't happen often.
Yeah, so this is going back about 5 years ago. No, I think it was about 5 or 6 weeks ago there.
It was, yeah.
So this is the Abbey of the Black Hag as it stands today, and this is Anne walking around there.
Hello again from Irish Paranormal Investigations. We have just done our first kind of look round of the Abbey, and we're going and finding lots of nooks and crannies. I'm now going to walk you around so you can see what's there and tell you some of the history, and we'll go from there. So as you can see, it really is in the middle of nowhere, and what you're seeing here is part of the exterior wall. Now, the Abbey was documented in the 13th century, but we know it's a lot older than that, probably looking at the 11th century. Now, the story that goes with it is a black nun, as she was called, She was said to be performing dark arts, ritual magic. Now, there's different consensus. It's a case of, did she do it while the other nuns were here? Or did she go after the nuns were all, or the place was decommissioned by the Pope, I should say. Now, the link may drop out again, as you can see. So what I will actually be doing, and Dominic will be videoing as we go as well, so there's some decent stuff to show you. As I was saying, she was said to have remained here practicing the black arts, dark magic. There has been archaeologists here that have found bones of children, and we shall move in now so you can see a bit more. This is just the first view as you step in.
Okay, I don't know if we've got any technical difficulties there, but hopefully you're seeing that there. So that's the part one now. I'll show part two soon there. But so, is there any? Is this? So are you going back to this place again, Anne?
We'd like to, yeah, and we wouldn't have a problem getting back there. It's unique. There's the fact that it's got the occult tied to it as well, always makes for an interesting location. The fact that there's been archaeological digs that has substantiated some of those black arts claims, like with the baby bones and stuff that they found, and just weird stuff that was happening to us there. There was a point where Dominic was going down one side of a wall, if you like, and I was down the other side, and there was a kind of walkway between, and a black shadow kind of went between the two of us, and neither one of us was aware the other one had seen it. And we both took off after it running, and it just disappeared into nowhere. So to see those kind of things, and to have kind of some of the equipment malfunctions, having, you know, the fact that a torchlight wouldn't even penetrate, strange sounds and noises, it's all very well going somewhere and, you know, finding EVPs later, but there's nothing more exciting than having stuff happen there and then while you're there. And it's one of those places, so definitely would be looking to go back again.
And as I was just saying, like, is there a story to it as well with a non-practicing black magic?
Yeah, one of the nuns. Yeah, a nun. I think as I said in the video there as well, it's whether she was practicing while the nuns were still there and while it was still consecrated, or whether she kind of stayed on after it was decommissioned with the Reformation and everything, and, you know, just carried on living there and doing these black arts. But the stories are that she would go into the nearby village of Askeaton and would perform depraved acts. As we said, the bones, the sacrifice, and apparently the way she looked at the time as well, it was like the soul had drained from her. She was gaunt, she was haggard, the clothes are hanging off of her. And it's one of those ones that nobody quite knows what happened to her. And the cell that's said to be hers, very, very peculiar, very dark, very, very heavy, like something pushing down on you. And I only felt any relief from that lead weight on me when I started to recite the Our Father. So yeah, that would be interesting to look at again as well. But overall, even though these things happen, aside of certain parts, the overwhelming feel is quite serene. So you can, if you were looking for something residual left, you know, if you're going with stone tape theory, what's left in the walls and everything, you would know it was an abbey. that they were. It was a religious place, for sure. Very interesting.
So I'll just go to. I'm going to show the second bit in a minute. There, hope you've seen it there, folks. There wasn't any technical troubles there, but a few of you have just put in a few comments there. Colin says some entities are bullies and they only interact with you when they're on your own. I know one in Loftus Hall that will do anything to try and intimidate you if you're alone. But if you are part of a group who does not want to play.
Yeah, that is, you know, at the end of the day, these spirits, these entities, bar certain ones like the elemental and stuff, they're overall they were people, or even if they're a demonic energy that's mimicking a person, it's going to have those characteristics. And you know, in life we have bullies, and you know, they're not going to stop there. We've had that bully aspect happen to us at LEP actually. Where it didn't go near the fellas in the bloody chapel, but it knocked the women. We were knocked off our feet because it obviously saw us as an easy target. And yes, I'd even go so far as to say when I was in the cell on my own, that's a good point actually, because as I was saying, the Our Father, Dominic came in. So whether he lightened it or whether it was because I was saying the prayer, I couldn't actually tell you. But yeah, that is an interesting observation. Yeah,
the energy shifted there, and I suppose I don't know. It could be yourself, as we were talking about time slips the other day. There, I think it was on about there. I suppose you just came out of that time slip when Dominic arrived, or something like that. There, very interesting. You experience activity during daylight. Activity isn't always scheduled for when the moon is out.
That there's this idea that things only go bump in the night is obviously not true. You know, it's going to happen. We go there partly, you know, I think we tend to go at night, one, because, you know, it does make for a better atmosphere. Two, it's often the only time you can get access to a lot of locations. And three, when it's dark, your senses are heightened and you're going to pick up on more, which is why I think paranormal investigators do favour that. But that doesn't mean that stuff doesn't happen during the day, because it does.
It does, yeah. It's cool. It's probably the best time is actually doing the pre-visit there, as you've done there. It's some of the best things are caught then. And Fed says parasites. Okay. Is that to do with paranormal websites? I don't know. I don't know. I think that's a completely different subject.
Draining, I think. Maybe, hopefully, I'm thinking he's referring to like the kind of the emotional vampires and the draining of energies and so forth.
Oh,
if not, I'll tell him off later.
Tell him off later then. So I'm just going to show the second part there of the video there. So this is Anne in around the Abbey of the Black Hag, and you can see the difference there from the daylight into a bit of a dusk. So here it is, second part.
Right, third time lucky, but as I said, it's the deeper into it we get, the worse the signal is. I'm going to try and quickly show you the cell of the Black Hag. And as I was saying, there's also the spirit of the Countess of Desmond, who was left here. Her husband thought she had died, buried her beneath the altar, and went on his way. And unfortunately, she was far from dead. And when nuns, hearing screams in the night, realised there was something remiss, they took apart the altar, found the body, and found she had broken fingers from obviously trying to claw her way out. And I did see there, someone asked for a shout out before it cut off. I think it said Anto, so apologies if I got that wrong, but hello and thanks for watching. And down here, we are into the territory of the Black Hag. So I think what we'll do is switch to video and post them as quickly as we can, just to be sure that you don't miss anything. and we'll speak to you soon.
So I hope you all got that there, folks. There, it came through okay. There, sometimes the internet does be so. It's Monday night tea time, full time in a match, is it?
Yeah.
Just come to a few more comments before we go on to the last subject. There, Joanne says, "And do you call out the spirits of a location at home before you actually visit that location?" So you...
Not as a practice. You know, obviously I'll research and look into things before I go, and then talk things over with Dominic, so the names are kind of being spoken out, but not as a ritual, if you like.
Gillian says, oh, sorry, Fred says parasitic entities.
I did get him right. I knew
Yeah.
that's what he was kind of getting at, I think. Yeah, yeah.
That's organisations to do with the paranormal, is it? I'm only joking, I'm messing. Gillian
Talk
says,
about Brighton players, yeah.
Brighton players. Anywhere there were clans you experienced bullyish behaviour because they were warriors and basically had to boy to survive. Daytime.
Yeah, she's spot on. Yeah, you're looking at the alpha male. Yeah.
True, yeah. It's, I suppose it's that as well, and we experienced that, I suppose, with paranormal investigations as well, like people saying they're feeling stuff, and then people following group conformity, I suppose, leading off somebody else, or the power in that paranormal group, as in somebody being led by a person saying they've seen something, or I suppose that's another thing. It's not just the spirits; it's the people in a group, or if you're out investigating in a group or teams there. So we're just gonna. This is the competition there, and so you got a choice of 6 places to pick from, and you have the library, ghost ship, graveyard, theatre, subway, and office. Joanne, you were quick on the go as well, so you got a choice of those 6 places: the library, ghost ship, graveyard, theatre, subway, or office. If you're just typing one of those places there, Joanne, and you're in a chance to go into the mini draw and mega draw Halloween time. And which one of those places would you pick?
Well, I've actually just been writing and need to finish it. Ghost ship. I've just been writing about ghost ships of Ireland, and we've had so many really cool pirates and ghost ships around Ireland, you wouldn't believe. So yeah, that one, you know, they say go for the one that draws you in. It's the ghost ship.
So you're going for the ghost ship. So you're go on the seas, and I think Joanne's going to watch James Bond or something, the Rocky Horror Show or something. She's picked the theatre. Okay, so another.
Oh yeah, that's back in Dublin, isn't it? The Rocky Horror Show.
Yeah, I was hearing something on completely different.
Yeah,
going
it's in the board
subject.
Josh. Yeah.
Is it something doing popcorn and Richard O'Brien? I never knew he was doing. He wrote it. Yeah. Crystal Maze.
Crystal Maze. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the paranormal. So we're talking about. So this is the last subject. It's Father Malachi Martin, the exorcist. There. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, from County Limerick, was it?
Johnson, my water.
Yeah. So, what can you tell us? What kind of character was he like, Father Martin?
Well, he was from a fairly, for the time, he was born in July of 1921 in Ballylongford, which, if people that don't know, it's kind of as you go down through Limerick and you're down into kind of Glyn and Tarbert, you then end up in Ballylongford, a small village, you know, typical Irish village. Unusually, now he was one of 10, 5 boys, 5 girls, and unusually 4 of the 5 boys all became priests. Because normally, like, you'd have one in the family that would become a priest or whatever, but in this case it was 4 of the 5, and one of his brothers is actually a very well-known historian, Francis Xavier. But anyway, he joined up to the Jesuit order of priests, so that's obedience, poverty, chastity, yada yada. But he had an incredible brain. He was very, very academic, which first of all brought him to attention of the Vatican fairly early on. He was extremely adept at deciphering and understanding ancient scripts. He was part of a team that done a great deal of research into the Dead Sea Scrolls. So that was his area of expertise. So he got closer and closer into the Vatican. And then he kind of got into the demonology aspect of being in the Vatican. Obviously, it would come more to his ears. And he actually performed, or he says he performed his first exorcism back in the 1950s. So he was fairly young. I'd probably be 24, but 30-ish, in his 30s. Yeah. He was also very, very outspoken against the Vatican. He believed vehemently that there was a lot of Freemasonry activity. He believed that there were nuns, ironically, based on what we were just talking about, that practiced the dark arts. He also, because of his standing in the Vatican, he got to do things like travel behind the Iron Curtain to try and promote Christianity. He'd done a lot of strange things for a priest of the time outside of the exorcisms. And he says himself that he took part in thousands of assists, as it were, of exorcisms and hundreds of his own. A very good friend of mine, Jimmy Pettinito, he actually worked with Father Malachi on with the Warrens as well, in connection with some exorcisms. But he was incredibly outspoken and was very charismatic. He used to do a lot of talks. He wrote a lot of books, and his books were of such a standard that he was getting these grants in New York, where he moved to, which meant that he could fund more writing and research and everything else. He actually requested the Vatican release him from some of his restrictions as a Jesuit priest, so that he could continue with his writing and everything else. And it's interesting because he is what conspiracy theories are made of, because so much wasn't documented, because the Vatican keeps so much to their chest and won't confirm or deny. The conspiracy theories surrounding this guy are almost as exciting as the life he actually led. There were anything from what was his take against Marxism and trying to convert people to Christianity. He was actually accused of being allegedly accused of being an Israeli spy because of his affinity for the Jews. He was very open that he believed in the 3 secrets of Fatima. And so he had so much else, so many plates spinning, that sometimes the exorcism element gets lost. But that was important. It was, he believed in, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't get it wrong. He said, "I have smelled the breath of Satan and heard the demonic voices, the demons' voices." He believed he'd stared evil in the face. And he firmly believed that you had to be pure and clear in intention before you could do these exorcisms. So he was, whether you agree with him or not, he was very definite about what he believed in, what he expected from people, and he was very vocal about anybody that seemed to cross that line. He had his black and white line, and if you crossed it, he'd let people know, you know. And he if you ever get the chance, I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but I've seen it on Amazon. It's called Hostage to the Devil. It came out a few years ago, and it's a mix of original audio. There's images and interviews with people like Jimmy that have spent time with him, and you get to learn more about the man himself, how much of it was a stage persona, where he left it on stage and the real man came out, you know, with the exorcisms. And if you're interested in that side of things, obviously he's written over 60 books. Some of them were fictional, and they say fictional in the loosest way because a lot of them were digs at the Vatican, but in the guise of a fiction book. So go and read some of his books, particularly Hostage to the Devil, and watch Hostage to the Devil, and it's a very good insight into the church and exorcisms. You know, at a time where the films like The Exorcist were coming out, this guy was going out doing it for real. But they, you know, he's had his critics over the years. You know, how much is jealousy, how much is because people know stuff we don't know. That's what I love about it. You need to keep digging and keep finding stuff, and he's a complete enigma. But there is no doubt that he did these things.
I know he's featured in, I think it's The Dark Sacrament by David Kiley there, and as you mentioned, the prophecies there, Fatima there. Is there any like exorcisms? I suppose you said he worked with the Warrens. There's any exorcisms that stand out? I know in the Dark Sacrament there's a couple of cases there in County Kerry in Ireland there, but is there anything that stands out to yourself? I suppose
it's, you see, for genuine exorcisms, you know, and I think that Father Martin would, you know, he talks about the process, and you know, the fact that there would be, it doesn't happen immediately. The entity needs to get to know a person. He's very clear that the entity needs to be invited in. You know, it won't attach itself to somebody that isn't willingly giving themselves over. Now, whether that's obviously through systematic wearing down of a person, and it goes from partial to complete. But those cases, the names and so on remain private. You know, nobody's going on the shows saying, "Oh, I'm the one that got cured of a demon." You know, it was done correctly. It wasn't, you know, and I think maybe there was an element of jealousy because he was a media darling. They liked him on the shows. He featured a lot on the Art Bell Coast to Coast. You know, and because he was very direct, he very firm in his beliefs and things that he wasn't happy with, you're going to make enemies that way. If you're not sitting on the fence, you're going to make enemies. And you know, because he obviously wasn't throwing out all this, you know, this is Mary and I cured her of a higher level demon, kind of say hello Mary, because he's not doing that. People are questioning it. But we all know that, you know, it is something that has been going on for centuries and centuries and centuries out of the Vatican. The Vatican did give him leave to do it. Now, there was a consensus that when he rescinded some of his vows, did that mean that he was no longer qualified to do them? I'd agree with what he said, which is, you know, what's in his heart and mind is what mattered. And I think it was about 10 years before he died, he was given the rights again to say mass anyway. So, you know, he was always had a foot in the door of the Vatican, shall we say. And one of his last exorcisms, whether something took hold, because he died of a brain injury. He was in his place in New York. And it's believed he was pushed by an unseen force. And he was actually asked on more than one occasion, I believe, did he think his life was at risk? And his answer was, well, yeah, probably, but he's been doing it too long to stop doing it. It's all he knew. I mean, this guy became a priest at the age of 18, and died in 1999. So literally all of his adult life was spent in this field. So
yeah, so it's something you already know to do. Like, and if people look to you then as well for that help as well, that it's something that you sacrifice yourself for as well. Like, Fred just mentioned that they're the hostage to the devil, as you said there, and the book as well that he wrote.
I think the book's 1976, so that would be interesting. That's an interesting read. It's a good read. I think people, if they get the opportunity to even read that before they watch the documentary, and it will kind of more tie together.
Yeah. Joanne says lots of conspiracies about the Vatican, particularly its hidden wealth, exorcisms and miracles. Do you think performing exorcism takes from a priest's life?
Yeah. I think anyone that gets involved, not just a priest performing exorcisms, but anyone that kind of dedicates their life to kind of, even, for want of a better word, demonologists and those that go to look to clear dark entities from houses, with or without Vatican backing. I think if they're, dedicating their life to it, it's going to have a drain. If you're dealing with dark energy all the time, it's going to drain you.
True that. Gillian says the Vatican have facilitated exorcisms and they have a college for exorcists. Yeah, and I think as well, they're reading us about the Vatican is built on an ancient pagan site, and they're I think they've got a satellite dish. Actually, is it somewhere in the Americas? I don't know. Somewhere it's called. I think it's called Lucifer. I'm not actually. I think it's actually called that name. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but they're keeping an eye on what's happening up in space. They have one of the best satellite. I think it's satellite dishes there for scanning or that kind of thing, because it's probably needed. They know science is taken over there. Fed says, thank you for the scary enlightenment. That's the question I suppose we're going to ask you there, Anne. So do you think like exorcisms and all that is going to become more or less with more paranormal teams? People more probably turn into paranormal teams, paranormal groups for advice?
I think there's I think people need to realize paranormal teams, and I think even the ones that you've seen on the television, they'll tell you, any paranormal team that goes into a private case, we're looking mainly to debunk it if we can. We're trying to find a natural cause. So whether it's a case of the slow carbon monoxide poisoning, whether there's too much electrical fields are too high because it needs rewiring or whatever, and it's creating a kind of a fear cage, or is there mental illness involved? So we're looking for the normal rather than the paranormal when we go into these places. And other than that, we are, and I think you'd agree with me on this, we're documenting. We don't have what it takes to rid a place of anything. I don't think any paranormal team does, unless obviously that the case can be made for certain spiritualists and mediums or whatever, if you do believe that. But I think generally, we can all go in, we can do a cleansing, we can use the sage, we can say the prayers, but we don't have the training or expertise or if you like, the level of Vatican consent even to rid evil energies from properties. And I think we can go in and say that there's something dark there, but the worry, of course, is, are you stirring something up? Are you making it worse? So it's a very, very kid gloves, tread lightly, and know your limits. Know your limitations. And if you think there's something dark there, if you think it's in the house, if you think it's attached to an individual, hand it off to someone that has the experience. And I think as long as the paranormal team is doing that, then there's less likelihood of things going wrong.
Mm.
And I think then that paves the way to the fact that you do need the next levels above to deal with whatever might be happening. I think the problem you've got, and the reason that there's probably less exorcists, is because there's less priests. Less people are going, there are less priests getting ordained. There's a massive shortage. You've seen now where priests are covering maybe 3 or 4 parishes now. One priest, whereas before you could have 4 priests in one tiny parish.
True,
It's I think when you're dealing, it's all very well we go into these places and we go into the historical ones and we'll do our live feeds, whatever, but when a private house is contacting you, they're scared to live where they are. It's a serious business. It's not for playing games. It's not for experimenting, because you can walk away from that house, they still have to live there.
True.
And from a safety point of view, as a paranormal team, you don't want anything attaching itself to you because you've gone prodding and you don't know how to close the door. So by all means, interview, try and find a normal explanation, get help as it may need be, but know your limitations and know when to hand off to someone that's got way more experience than you have.
And I suppose it depends on the goal as well. I suppose the objective of what that person wants in that house. It could be, I suppose it depends if they want to enhance their skills, or whether it's to do with their possession or something to do with the environment, as you said there. And I suppose it's just depends on the person who contacts you, or friends of that person who contacts you as well, if it's to do with something like possession as well.
I mean, we've all been contacted by somebody that just they
might
bought
just
a
want
house.
a ghost hunt as well. That's what some people, they just want a ghost hunt as well.
And some people, they just want, I know I've been talking to some of my friends in America that do this, and the first thing that a lot of people go is, when are the cameras showing up? And it's like, hang on there. So some people want notoriety, some people want a bit of a scare, some people may want to enhance a particular aspect of a property they have. They maybe want to turn it into a B&B, or like a Lizzie Borden house or something, and they want some kind of substantiation they can put on the website to say so and so was here, and which is fine. And that's fine, because then nobody's kind of there's no end goal per se that would cause harm. But when you're looking at someone that's really, really scared and they think dark things are going on, go in, you can document, you don't antagonize, and go up the food chain once you get to a certain point.
I just come to a few questions there, or comments there. Colin, this is just about a few minutes back. Strange to hear bell ringing at 3 a.m. in the middle of the Irish Sea. Okay, that's something as well.
Strange to talk about as well.
I know. I don't know. Anyway, 3 a.m. I don't know. I'm usually awake at that time. I never go to sleep.
Were you on a ferry, Colin? Is that what it was?
Well, it's out on deck. Having a cigarette with 2 other people when this old boy with a bell that was ringing went floating past. So
Jesus out of you.
Oh God, that would be freaky there.
I bet you're hoping it was a boy, Colin, and it wasn't just a death knell.
Hopefully, and it's not a seagull as well. Thank you for the scary entertainment, says Fred. Mary says we do not have the skill to do exorcisms. Leave it to the professionals. So because I suppose it's different as shamans. There's all types of it's
I was dealing with a private case this week, and she was asking about a shaman. I was like,
It depends what.
I mean, that could be all right, but I don't think any of us know any of them well enough, because that's what it comes down to. You can have someone that say they've got credentials, but unless you know somebody and you know what they've done, you don't want to take that chance of referring somebody that's going to make it worse.
True, so it's knowing who to refer them to there as well. Gillian says anyone who takes on clearing, be it on a person or place, needs to really know what they're doing, because they will cause more harm than good. The vet fielding wannabes are usually the first ones to run when they actually experience something paranormal.
Yep.
But yeah, it's I suppose it's stealing. There can be cases there as well, I suppose, when it's to do, you know, with the environment, and then some when it's not just for YouTube now, and I suppose that's coming in, and TikTok there, people wanting they're actually publicizing the places, like these private places where they're going to, where people are living. It's terrible that way. But then again, it depends on the occupants. Then if they're wanting a ghost hunt or something like that, then as well, you can come to that there. Angie says, glad to hear you say that, Anne. A lot of new teams claim to have the skill to rid a place of demons.
Yeah, ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous that anyone would say. I don't think I even know any demonologist or probably any exorcist that would ever make a claim that they could do that, because God, these things, if you know about exorcisms, they take months of preparation and research and study, and then they can take months and years to actually complete an exorcism. You're not going to do it in one night with a K2.
No, not with a K2 anyway.
You're not going to do a whole lot with the K2, to be fair.
Christmas
except
lights.
check the wiring, yeah.
So Joanne says, if you're not trained and try to do an exorcism, you're asking for trouble. Yeah, I've been through a few exorcisms in my life, and I suppose baptism is one.
They didn't have any luck getting rid of it, though, did they, Anthony?
No. Well, what I did actually, because I know we got something coming up in the Halloween sort of show. We did a exorcism years ago, and it wasn't actually, it was just talking to the actual person that actually was more sensible to do. But that was a mistake on our part there, and I learned from it there, and it was good to sort of know there. But I wish I never did it but it's good to actually show people how things could happen, because there was nobody to actually turn to in that time. Joanne says, sorry now, I think we're up to that right. I can't. Gillian says, stop. That the demonologist is a ridiculous thing, belongs in Hollywood. I was looking at lamps last week. Does that mean I'm a lampologist? Okay, so that's another point of view.
If you like. I think we use the term demonologist because it's a word that people understand. You know, it's people get the idea, but it's what would you call them?
It's the history as well. They're like demonologists.
Yeah,
A few weeks ago.
If you're looking at it as a theoretical title, you know, like folklorist.
Yeah.
Then it makes sense. But if you're then transposing it to doing someone that's doing work similar to an exorcist, then I think you're on very rocky ground. Gillian's right there, you know. But the demonologist is to someone that's put time into studying demonology, which is a word. You know, it is a theoretical, it is an academic field of studying the books and the processes and everything else. But not with regards to going in but you see, if you're somebody that does that kind of thing, how do people find out about you? There has to be a word, I suppose, whether we agree with it or not. So
true. And Gillian says, in my opinion, teams out there don't have right to call themselves paranormal investigators. They think because they have a K2 and novelty equipment that they know what they are doing there. True, that's true there. But I suppose the whole broad spectrum now is that I suppose it's gone like completely from calling in someone that it's actually, you get the apps on the phone now, you can be doing it yourself there, and it's everyone's a paranormal, which is, I suppose it's cool in some ways that it gets more widely noticed, but then it's bad on people that have been doing it for years there. And
well, it kind of, you see, funnily enough, I was on being interviewed in South Africa earlier in the week, and it's all very new to them. You know, they don't have our history, and even paranormal investigating is very new, and they were asking me what I thought about mobile apps, and you know, nothing beats the basic tools, and to me the most basic tool you've got is learning experience. Every day is a school day. There are no experts. We're all learning.
Oh, mate.
But, you know.
No, so I got loads of kids. So. Why are we even doing this? It's a Monday night. I'm only joking. So.
Yeah, I know, right? But you know, but there are ones that go out and they actually have they actually are selling the t-shirts and the hats before they've even done an investigation, and it's like, no. Or I've got all these apps on my phone, right? Do you know what they're for? Well, no, but it's an app, so it'll do it for me. No, no.
Yeah. Gillian says, I'm really stirring tonight. So you're getting off your chest there, Gillian. It's okay. Colin says, agreed.
She's spot on.
It's true, though. It is, yeah. I have always said I am happy to go and look over a place and tell you what I think, but is actually interfering directly in a place situation.
Yeah.
That's someone else.
I think, yeah. So yeah, there's it's one thing to go exploring and looking around. The way I look at it, it's all very well going and looking over the edge of the cliffs of Moher, but you don't want to jump off. You know your limits. Do you know, if you've got a parachute, you've got 50-50 chance, but generally speaking, you know, you can explore, of course. We'd always say never go on your own, of course, if you're doing it for the first time. And don't waste your money downloading apps and stuff. Just go and use your senses, tune your senses, learn about locations, learn from people that have been doing it longer than you. Read. Do you know, we can all find things on the internet. Buy a book, read. There's plenty there going back that I think most of us have read at least a couple of them. And it takes time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. Like you said, you've made mistakes. I've made mistakes. We've all done it. You know, that's how you learn. But you know, when you're talking about exorcisms, when you're talking about private cases, there is a very serious side to it. So do know what your limitations are. And
that's why they call private. They're not there for YouTube or anything else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're not there to make a name for you. If you're going in there to make a name for you, you shouldn't be going in there at all. If you're going in there because you want to help somebody, that's what it's about.
So we just have you got anything? So anything coming up in the pipeline there, Anne? Any investigations or TV?
Yeah, we've actually Palace Drew, so that's gone. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'll be exercising life score soon. No, we've actually got a nice one in. I won't give too much away, so I'm kind of giving clues going down the week, but we're out this weekend in Tipperary.
Oh, cool.
We've been invited in. It's interesting. It's got a very good history. It goes back centuries, and our favourites had nuns, and it was a school, and there were nuns, and it's all very Conjuring-esque, and a few dark things have happened there. So we'll be going in and doing a bit of video footage as well to go with it, and so we're quite excited about that.
It all fits in well with what we're talking tonight. So there, back to school, go back to school. As we say.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've just got. So this is the quiz, the competition. Sorry, there. So we're just going to go through this, Joanne. Hopefully you're still watching it, and you picked the ghost ship. And
I did.
And Joanne's picked the theatre, which is, I suppose, I don't know if she's watching James Bond or the Rocky Horror Show. We'll see now. So here it is. Here we go. So there was a choice of the library, the ghost ship, graveyard, theatre, subway, and office viewing. So no luck for the ghost ship, subway, or theatre. Mini draw was a graveyard, and the library. So no luck this week there, Joanne, and I'm sorry there, sister.
Sorry.
No. Okay. We're all
should have gone for the graveyard.
Oh no, the graveyard. Well, no, should have gone for the library or the office. There would have won an extra pen.
I spent enough time in the office. I was in the office all day. I don't need it tonight.
So that's it. No luck from anyone this week there, but we'll have another 2 goes coming up. There are 2 more shows there because we're coming to the end of the season there. So our next week's show, next Sunday there, we have Dr. Kieran O'Keefe, and he's going to be talking about the new book he's co-written called Ghosted, Psychic Criminology, and Hampton Court Palace there. So
Deadly. That's a great place. Have you ever been?
Hampton Court? No. Been
it's outstanding. Yeah. That would be a good one for him to talk about. Yeah.
There's a I don't know. There's a naughty saying about that place, isn't it? I won't say it.
Get back to your hamburgers.
Yeah, I know. Get back to my hamburgers. Don't forget about Offaly the Spook, crossroads of the country.
I have to get up to Gillian because she's going to take me exploring because that woman knows some of the coolest place. Everyone knows Lett Castle, everyone knows Charleville Castle and stuff, but that woman knows some of the weirdest places to go to. So yeah, I should be calling you, Gillian. I shall be up one of the days soon now.
Yeah, Offaly is probably the top there with Wexford, isn't it?
I'd put it above Wexford. Sorry, Wexford, but I would.
Yeah. And Longford. Longford.
Longford.
No, Longford. There's a few spooky places there as well. Joanne says, never mind. Thank you, Anthony, and great show. No problem there, Joanne. There.
Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us. It was good fun.
Yeah, it's great, and we'll link in again soon there, sis. And thank you everyone for commenting tonight there. And if you want to check up on this show there and past shows there, just go to our website www.ghostére.net. Angie says, great night. Thanks again, Anthony, and all the A's. Thank you, Angie. There, drag Anthony with you, says Gillian there. Oh no,
I will. Yeah,
has to be not a school night. I've gone to the weekend kind of thing. Bank holiday now. We get an extra bank holiday. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, apparently for being good boys and girls. So.
But who's going to work? Who's working when I don't know. It's all extra money. Petulia Mitchell says, really interesting. Thanks there. So, folks, I won't see you next time. I'll see you in the near distance. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, Gillian says, great show. Don't have a spectacular week. Okay. Bye, everyone. We're going out. Bye-bye. Bye. The 90 minutes is up. It's injury time. Bye-bye.